Well, today in my presentation, let's start with who am I. I am Blerina Kolgjini. I'm working at the Textile and Fashion Department for almost 25 years. And I'm much related with the technology of textile production. So let's say I am really in the problematic that these textiles are causing since we are using them. So my presentation is going to be firstly a general view about the importance of water, and then I will go deep inside what is the problem and how can we adjust it, or how can we try to solve it. So could you please go to the next slide? Well, it is known how important is water for us. Just a quick view on the map and is enough to understand actually this fact. If we refer to the values, 70%, 71% is covered by water. Even the human body itself has most of its water and varies from 50 to 70% depending on age and on the gender. But despite these facts, what has not been given importance is the care. So we didn't really take care for the water. It is thought that there are several factors that have influenced on the quality of water. And when I say quality of water, I refer here to all the water in general. Among these factors, I have listed the population growth, industry, and plant urbanization, and really poor water management. Each of these factors actually cannot be seen strictly divided by each other because they really influence on each other. But regardless of these factors, could you please go to the next slide? I will refer to the industry and specifically to the textile industry. In addition, we have to be aware that it's not only the microfibers coming from textiles, so we cannot blame only the textiles actually for this problem. Although we find these fibers on human bodies, in plants, in fishes, everywhere, but still actually there are other plastic pollutions that are causing these troubles because of the wearing these textiles or these plastic bottles, for instance, standing for quite a long time on water or in the nature, they can start fibrillating. And what we see on the human bodies, for instance, as mentioned in the previous webinars, we see the fibrils and we think there are fibers, but we cannot blame only textiles. I don't know how often you have been to the hospitals, hope none of you have been, but myself, I have been for almost 20 years actually taking care for my parents. And all the time when I have been there, I have seen that the containers, the shearings, the containers for the serums, they are all plastics. So this is, and the question here is why we shifted from glosses to plastics. That's for sure, there are some advantages, but we didn't take care, or probably we didn't take into account the damage that these products, the plastic materials, will cause in the future when they have been invented. A part of it is true that textiles are mass-produced and are most common products, but plastics actually we can find everywhere. Textile production goes through several stages, and for the matter of fact, we have to admit that textiles are the most complex structure as possible seen, because each stage has its own structure, and each of the structures affects the performance of the textile in terms of use, maintenance, or even the aesthetic aspects. That's the thing that everybody takes care recently. If we refer to the synthetic fibers, their morphology has its impact on the yarn. The more regular and compact the structure is, the better the performance of the yarn will be. We know that the yarn is a bundle of fibers joined together to stay together as a result of twisting. The better the fiber has positioned itself in the yarn, the better the yarn will perform. And depending on the structure of the textiles, we will have different performance of them. So microfiber pollution, of course, represent one of the most difficult environment challenges, but we have to understand from which part of the textiles these microfibers are coming. All of the stages of the textile production, they cause a problem. But in my presentation, I will, could you please go to the next slide? I will be referring to the microplastics, or let's say microfibers that are coming from the laundry. According to studies, every time we wash clothes in the washing machine, hundreds of thousands of fibers and microfibers break off from our clothes. These fibers travel from our home to global ecosystems. There has been no concern about clothing made from the natural fibers before, because of course the washing has existed before we started to use the washing machines, but we didn't have such a problem. But now, since we are facing synthetic materials, we are facing also this pollution of water because synthetic materials are not degraded easily, or they stand there for hundreds of years. Textile production, of course, goes to several aspects, to several stages, and each stage has its own direction or its own percentage causing the pollution of the water. But we have to understand, if we are not taking care in the way we are producing the fibers, the yarns, the textiles, then it means that we will have these fibers that escape, let's say, from the textiles during the wash. The better the fiber it is, the less escape we will have. But if you go, please, could you go to the next slide? By identifying the main source of the factors that cause fiber breakage, we can aim to interfere where they will have the greatest impact. Most microplastics break down during washing and drying. Up to 5 million fibers, till up to 1.5 million fibers can be released just in one washing cycle. Imagine what will happen if we take into consideration the population. That's, so far as I know, it's 8.4 billion people. So the pollution is really in a very high level. Could you please go to the next slide? The path for this pollution from the washing machine to the global environment is because even the countries that have designed the water treatment system, they didn't take into account the size of the fibers. And here we are talking about the microfibers that is at the level of 10 minus 6 and 10 minus 9 nanofibers. So they were not prepared for this level of catching the pollution. These systems actually in the past were designed to handle organic waste and pathogens. And we are talking about the places or the countries that have this system, the wastewater treatment plants. Imagine what will happen in Albania or in, as I heard from the previous webinars, also other countries in Balkan had the same problem. They don't have the water treatment plants. So the pollution is in a higher level. I am from north part of Albania, and we have an artificial lake, we call it Liçeni Firzës, and every year we are facing the same trouble with a lot of plastic. The surface of the lake is fully covered by plastics. And this is, every year is increasing and increasing, although the population is decreasing. And the question is, how come that we are facing such a problem? Because pollution doesn't recognize the borders. the water is flowing everywhere. So it's coming from Macedonia, it's coming from Montenegro, it's coming from Kosovo. Doesn't matter. What we see, it is the pollution. In the past, probably European countries probably they didn't really pay or take into consideration this pollution, but right now, I guess they are really concerned about it and probably also investing a lot to find a solution. In this matter, I remember a phrase coming from, I forgot the name actually. He said, at that time was a discussion about the globalization, and what he mentioned was, if the globalization will not work for all, it will work for none. So if we will not be all together in this matter, then we can't find a solution. That's why we have to consider the fact that the pollution doesn't recognize borders. Anyway, coming back to the slide, so what we see here is I try to make it easy and to see what is the road, what's the road that the microfibers or nanofibers follow till they reach the land or till they reach the water, and then it's coming back, of course, to us, because the phrase "what goes around comes around" is not by coincidence. So could you please go to the next slide? So, of course, we are aware of this, and it is really a concern for everybody, specifically because we are talking about synthetic materials. But when it comes to the textiles, we know that textiles are not 100% 100% polyester or synthetic materials, but they are mixed together with natural fibers and also with other fibers in order to increase their performance. Because when we produce textiles, what we have in our mind, or what we had at least at that time in our mind, was to produce these textiles to perform as better as they could and to use them as long as we could. But right now, actually, the situation has really changed, because people are wearing textile and they are just throwing away, since the prices are decreased because of these synthetic materials. A part of it, what we see from this graph schematically, it seems like we have also an influence on the quality of the yarn, on the quality of the textile, the structure of the textile. They do have a significant importance on the quantity of the materials or of the microfibers or fibers that can release or can escape from the textiles during washing. But the most critical point, actually, or the most critical variable here, is the yarn construction. Yarn, it means that how the fibers are constructed inside of this structure. More twisted yarn, less fiber escape, but more twisted yarn, it means more harder textiles, but they will not perform in softness. They will be very, very tough. So we have to find a point in order to satisfy also the consumers, us, as we use the textiles every day. But in the meantime, we have to take into consideration also what this fiber migration or escaping, let's say, from textiles will cause in the near future. And so far, actually, the values are really increased, and as you have seen on the previous slides, they are terrifying. So, of course, what we think about this problem is better to cure, is better to prevent and not to cure it. Or, of course, we have to cure this problem, but the best is to prevent as much as we can. And thinking about, as I have, could you please go to the next slide? And as mentioned also here, we cannot clean the ocean. So thinking about cleaning the ocean just virtually is very impossible. And the most effective way is is to interfere exactly at the point where the fibers can be released. And in this matter, it is found a solution to catch the fibers during the washing. So to try to catch as possible as we can these escaping fibers from the textiles as a result of laundering. So if you go please to the next slide, there are three physical approaches for to consumer mitigation. The consumer market has engineered three distinct physical intervention to capture the microfibers, of course, before they hit the drain. Of course, none of them is perfect, but at least they can provide a positive environmental impact. One on the first picture, it is a so-called coral ball. The second one is a kind of bag where we have to put the textiles inside and then to proceed with the process of washing. And the third solution that came actually provided by the engineers is by attaching an extra filter to the machine in order to catch the fibers. When they are engineered or when this solution has been provided, the first thing that should come for everyone is like finding these things as practical as possible in order to be sure that the people will use them. Because if things are complicated, that's for sure everybody will just avoid them and proceed as they used to proceed to wash the textiles in classical way. Because everybody is concerned about his time, everybody is concerning about the efficiency of using the materials, but since they don't see directly the problem, they don't really take into account how important is to catch the fibers before they hit the drain. A part of introducing, could you please go to the next slide? A part of introducing these three solutions, of course, none of them has 100%. Is not none of these is 100% has efficiency. According to what they have measured, coral ball they can catch up to 30% the fibers. The bag could go up to 100, but not really a precise value. They pretend to go 100, but it's not really catching all of the fibers. And the best seems to be the external filters that is put on the machine externally. When it comes to the lifespan circularity for the coral ball, it is up to 5 years. For the bag, it seems to be several years, but the thing is that it is a thing that has to be done extra by the people, so it's not really practical. And among these three, the best seems to be the external filter attached to the machine. Could you please go to the next slide? So a part of the solutions of these three solutions that came from the engineers, it's also, there are some practical things that are connected or related to the way how to wash textiles. It is preferred to wash them with cold water, and based on the measurement, seems like just by reducing to 15 degrees the washing, it seems like 30% of the fibers are catched or are not released in the water. It is another practical thing is that to use liquids instead of powder, because powders seems to have zeolites or other materials that increase the friction with the textiles, which cause the fiber release. There are also other suggestions not to fully foot all of the fully fit that or yeah the textiles in the washing machine, and also the last one is the frequency of use. Of course, it's easy to say and to give and to give suggestions, but always we have to think how practical are these in terms of everyday use, or if we are thinking to manage our time, because most of the time actually we are just escaping. The next thing is that if we are talking about harmless or dangerous or viruses or bacteria, whatever, is 15 degree enough to get rid of this pollution from the textiles? So although the solutions or the suggestions are provided, still the question mark arises if these are well embraced from the people. Could you please go to the next slide? While, of course, each one of us could go individually and find a solution or decide or voluntarily corporate for actions, but still it is necessarily to put a kind of regulations that it's going to come from the government, because that's the best way actually probably also to convince people that this situation is really serious. So the governments around the world are beginning to recognize the severity of microfibers pollution and are taking initial steps to address it. Of course, I have ranked them according to the years: California, France, European countries also with the circular economy action plan, and New York, which still is active. But so far seems like only France has taken it seriously by requiring all the new washing machines to have built-in microfiber filters by 2025. So this is regulated by EU legislation, and it seems like the results will come, of course, not directly, but they will come after some years, because we cannot see directly the values, since the water pollution is still on a high level. Also in New York, legislation has been provided. In California, they have addressed several studies in order to come up for a solution. Could you please go to the next slide? So a key initiative is a microfiber consortium, 2000 or 2030 commitments, which is a global effort to work toward zero impact or zero pollution by 2030. This commitment focuses on understanding the root causes, the shedding, and leveraging the knowledge to develop manufacturing best practices guidelines. By improving yarn and fabric construction from the outlets, the industry can create textiles that are inherently less prone to release fibers. So it is a thing that I explained in the previous slides, how important is to understand the structure of the fibers and what is the influence these fibers has in order to prevent the fiber release during the washing or during the wearing or during the drying these textiles. These individual industrial and technological solutions are powerful, but their full potential can only be realized through comprehensive regulatory framework to ensure implementation at a scale, so to scale it up. Could you please go to the next slide? So proactive collaborative industry action and government regulation are not parallel efforts, but interconnected and mutual reinforcing components of a comprehensive solution. The entire sectors should work together, as I mentioned. So if globalization will not, Kofi Annan was the person who said this, if globalization will not work for all, it will work for none, because sooner or later we would face this problem. In core goals are to align the sector, understand fragmentation, and mitigate fragmentation. Could you please go to the next slide? Microfiber pollution is a fact, is an environmental threat originating from the everyday act of washing our clothes, because we need to maintain our clothes, and that's a thing that we cannot avoid. These tiny plastic particles shed from synthetic textiles have contaminated every ecosystem on the planet, posing risk to wildlife and human health. Our existing wastewater infrastructure is not designed to capture these microscopic pollutants, allows them to pass into our rivers, oceans, and concentrate them in agricultural slugs, creating a cycle of contamination. What we can think about is that to prevent the problem layer by layer. So the best thing is to think about the structure of the textile, and then to optimize the laundry, and then to increase the quality of the filters, and then, of course, to think twice about the infrastructure of water treatment. So these layers are necessary, but it should start from the structure of the textile, from the structure of the yarn, from the structure of the fiber, and also it could start from the material itself. We cannot vanish, or we cannot completely close the loop for synthetic fibers, but at least let's think about the quality of the fibers and the quality of the yarn in order to prevent this fiber escape. Of course, legislations, standards have been developed, are provided in order to guarantee the quality of the textiles. But in the meantime, we have to guarantee also the quality of the water, and of course, the quality of our life. When I mentioned the standards, it means that also the people has to change the standard of wearing. So if something is not perfect, they have to admit it, they have to accept it, because the perfection in a aesthetic aspect, it's really causing a lot of troubles in the environment. When synthetic fibers have been introduced in the beginning, in the beginning of 1930, everybody was really happy about the appearance, about the aesthetic. But at that time, apparently nobody thought about how these threads, these fibers, will cause such a big issue in all over the world. Could you please go to the next slide? Capturing microfibers at their source seems to be a real solution. By focusing on the washing machine as a key point, we can prevent this pollution. This strategy is not theoretical. The technology is available now. It is effectiveness and has been proven in both in laboratory and also in the community settings. Protecting our waterways and ecosystems requires a multi-pronged approach. The time has come for the decisive action from all the sectors. Consumers must adopt filtration technologies and sustainable laundry habits. The textile industry must accelerate innovation in materials and manufacturing to design lower shedding products. And the government itself must enact bold policies that mandate filtration and insensitive, rapid market-wide transition. By working together, we can turn the tide on microfibers pollution and secure a cleaner future. European countries have provided also this textile recycling, upcycle, reusing, repurposing, etc. But if we talk about the mechanical recycling of textiles, I can assure that the quality of the fibers and the twisting, the spinning that we call it in our in the technology of spinning, is not gonna be the same as a pure or as a virgin fibers, which means that, of course, we can find a solution how to remove or to recycle these textiles. But on the other hand, we have to think about the structure the fibers or the yarns will have and what they will cause on the first washing. Because a majority of these fibers, these recycled fibers, will be end up immediately after first or second wash of the clothes. We will see them. So it's better to put on the table all of the facts, all of the values that we have, all of the data that we have, in order to prevent as much as we can the pollution of waters from microfibers. Because as I mentioned, catching the microfibers after they are released or after the water went to the oceans or to the sea, it's impossible action. So the better is to catch them directly on the washing machine, and the best is to not to use actually synthetic materials, but at least to think about the structure of the yarn and the way how we are producing the yarns. Recently, not recently actually, maybe during these 20 years, there are introduced new technologies for spinning machines, as it is open end machines for the yarn. It has a very high productivity, but on the other hand, I don't know if they have tested how many fibers can be released from these open end yarns when they are washed, or if they are going under certain frictions, because that is a real problem. So that was a kind of conclusion and also a kind of how to say it, advice for the old people who wants to think or who wants to give their ideas for the future structure of textiles or future industry. The next slide is the last one. And so that's a phrase, water is a driving force of all nature. And the next slide is the last one. So thank you for your time, for your attention. I would be happy to answer any question if I hope I managed to give a clear view about where is the problem and how can we solve it. Thank you.